Hello, everyone. Welcome to our presentation for Module 4, Ethical Dilemmas in Social Work. I'm Rina, and presenting with me is Cal and Samantha. So this slide covers several important standards from the NASW Code of Ethics that are relevant to our case study. So Standard 1.06c reminds social workers to avoid dual or multiple relationships that could risk harming a client. So an example could be situations where personal and professional boundaries may overlap. 1.02 focuses on self-determination. So this means that clients have the right to make their own choices, and our role is to support them in doing so safely. 4.03 talks about our private conduct shouldn't interfere with professional responsibilities. So, in other words, we have to maintain professionalism even outside the workplace. And finally, 3.09 A through D refers to commitments to employers, following policies and helping improve when needed, and then ensuring that agencies maintain ethical standards. Okay, technology and confidentiality. These are becoming more important in social work practice today. So first, social workers have to make sure electronic records are kept secure and that they're handled in line with legal standards like privacy and data protection laws. We also have to follow electronic transaction standards. This means that how we store, how we share and send client information must meet ethical and legal requirements. When it comes to email and texting, it's important to remember that they're not completely secure, so that they should only be used for routine communications. Social workers also need a clear social media policy. So we shouldn't friend or follow our clients, and we need to set boundaries while also explaining to clients the risks of communicating online. And then finally, with telehealth, it's crucial to have informed consent and to make a crisis plan and then have proper client screening, and then always follow state laws that apply to the sessions. And then ethical use of technology in relationships. So this slide shows that ethical use of technology when it comes to our relationship with clients. So firstly, it's important to verify information before reacting or sharing anything about another professional online, because misinformation can be very harmful and detrimental to someone's reputation really quickly. Um, we also need to avoid any form of cyberbullying or sharing private information about colleagues. That kind of behavior can damage trust and professionalism in our field. And then if we notice that a colleague is acting unethically online, like posting confidential client information or simply behaving unprofessionally, we're expected to take the appropriate action that's needed. So this could mean consulting a supervisor or following agency procedures. And then lastly, we should respect colleagues' privacy and professional work, both on social media and in digital spaces, the same way we would in person.
Okay, so ethical dilemmas they happen when you have a personal belief and a professional value that mixes. So, for example, if somebody was working at a clinic and a client came in for an abortion, but you are against the abortion, but our value is to take care of the kid of the client. That would be an example of when the um, ethical dilemmas would come into play. Okay, dual relationships. Sometimes dual relationships are unable to be avoided, like school groups, churches, um, sometimes meeting houses. So it's really strongly encouraged to set boundaries, make sure that they're clear, communicate with your client and your supervisor that there's a dual relationship in the process, that there are boundaries, relay the boundaries, and make them known to all parties involved.
Thank you, Sam. So now to get into ethical decision making. In the field of social work, we have different frameworks or theories that are applied to ethics. Some of the most important theories would be ACT utilitarianism, which is really focused on maximizing benefit and minimizing harm, just in general. So, do whatever for the greater good. And then you also have rural utilitarianism, which is still utilitarianism. The main goal is to, do everything for the greater good, but it has more of an emphasis on the long-term consequences of your actions. And then finally, we have deontology, which is more of an emphasis on following laws, rules, and these professional standards, because, they support our industry and they're kind of the guardrails that we work within. And additionally, in all ethical dilemmas, consultation and referral are key when you're feeling conflicted. It's always good to get more people in to help. So for our case study, we did a private therapist, Jennifer Stevens, LCSW. She's 34 years old, and she is working for a local agency. Um, she's been had a history with codependent relationships, and has been reported to her supervisor recently for multiple ethics code violations. So in the case study, we're kind of going to be examining these ethical dilemmas and, applying the NASW Code of Ethics to them. So the first ethical violation we have is of standard 1.06C, which is about avoiding dual/multiple relationships that may risk harm to your client. So our provider, Jennifer, is working with Maria, who's a 25-year-old single woman. She started therapy after a recent breakup and experiencing some more anxiety than usual. Maria mentions in session that she's looking for a room to rent, and Jennifer knows that a friend of hers, Tom, is renting out a spare room. Jennifer gives Maria Tom's contact info, and things go smoothly at first when Maria moves in. But within a few weeks, Tom begins to act controlling towards Maria, questioning her about where she goes, taking her phone, and occasionally raising his voice at her. Maria confides in Jennifer that she's having these problems with Tom. However, Jennifer feels conflicted because she's dating Tom and doesn't want to believe he could be abusive. So instead of helping Maria create a safety plan or exploring housing resources, Jennifer minimizes Maria's concerns and tells her that Tom is just protective because he cares. Because of this, Maria went to another employee at the agency and reported this incident with Jennifer. The next ethical violations we have are of 1.02, which is about respecting clients' self-determination. Jennifer has been working with Nadia, a client who's a 31-year-old immigrant and a mother, and she's seeking support for her teenage daughter's behavioral issues. Nadia believes in using strict discipline based on her cultural background, including removing her daughter from school as a punishment to teach her respect. Nadia insists it's a part of her values and culture. This ethical dilemma makes Jennifer question whether she should intervene and report the possible neglect or respect Nadia's background and autonomy as a parent. And then we have standard 4.03, private conduct should never interfere with professional responsibilities. So in this situation, Jennifer has begun dating a coworker from her agency who happens to supervise one of her clients in a community program outside of the agency. Their relationship is private, but rumors have started to spread within their workplace and amongst the clients, and some staff are questioning whether Jennifer's judgment or confidentiality could be compromised because of the dual relationship with her coworker, who's also a supervisor of her client. And then finally, we have standards 3.09 A through D, which is all commitments to employers, adhere, improve policies, and ensure ethical practice. One of Jennifer's colleagues, Sarah, has observed her cross ethical boundaries with clients on multiple occasions, in some of these scenarios we've mentioned previously. However, despite her supervisors being made aware of these mistakes, Jennifer hasn't seen any consequences yet, and it's been weeks. When Sam confronted her supervisors, they minimized the severity of Jennifer's ethics violations. As a social worker, it's Sam's duty to inform them of exactly why Jennifer should be held accountable for her action. And this correlates to Standard 3.09C. Social workers should take reasonable steps to ensure that employers are aware of social workers' ethical obligations as set forth in the NASW Code of Ethics and the implications of those obligations for the social work practice. So to summarize, it's our responsibility to inform our employers when there are ethical lines being crossed if they don't know why this situation is serious. And to continue, we put our ethical dilemma here through Reamer's model for ethical dilemmas. And as you can see, it starts with a brief summary of the scenario. LCSW Jennifer has referred her client Maria to her boyfriend Tom for housing. Maria reports controlling behavior, and then Jennifer minimizes those concerns. And Maria has gone to her supervisor because of it. Here, there are multiple standards being directly violated. First, we have 1.06C, dual relationships. Her dual relationship with Tom is creating a conflict of interest, and it's clearly a violation of proper boundaries, having your boyfriend rent out to your client. Next, we have 4.03, which is private conduct. Personal relationships should never interfere with professional duties. And here, Jennifer is letting her relationship with Tom interfere with her duty to help her client. And finally, we have 3.09 A through D, commitment to employers. Our employers have ethical obligations to hold providers accountable when they violate standards, and that hasn't happened yet. So somebody needs to take action. So the risks here in this situation, are the client directly coming to harm because of Tom's behavior, plus, just the general, trauma that comes with having unsafe housing. Additionally, it's clear breach of confidentiality and trust, and it creates a role conflict, which would lead to biased judgment. And additionally, there is definitely some legal and professional liability here. So our risk management factors, we would start by disclosing the conflict to the supervisors and reassigning the client to another provider. Additionally, we would suspend Jennifer and try and document as much of her ethical violations as we can. We would do weekly supervisory check-ins with all providers and agency policy updates after this incident. And we would also require ethics and good boundaries training for all staff within the next month, and then follow up by monitoring clients by providers or compliance by providers, and doing screeners for client safety. Our main goal here is to protect client welfare and maintain good professional boundaries, as well as ensuring we're complying with the ethics code and reducing our own liability here. And finally, the only sources we use for this project are the NASW Code of Ethics and our textbook, Social Work Values and Ethics. So thank you guys.